Welcome to this episode of Quilt 101. I'm Emily and this is my lovely mother Wendy. And today we are going to teach you the basics of straight line quilting on your sewing machine.
So today in this episode we want to help you feel more confident about being able to quilt it yourself on your home sewing machine. You don't need a fancy machine, just a very basic machine will work, and it's something that we know that you can do, and it will save you money by not having to send it out to a long arm quilter unless you want something super duper fancy. But we have actually really enjoyed doing straight line quilting, and the designs work.
Well, the designs can be really modern, which I love, and they really don't take that much time, and they don't have to be that complicated or intricate, like without getting like a super like cool, interesting like pop in it. And so I love it. They're my favorite type of quilting.
So we're going to start out by just showing you some different, very simple straight line quilting designs. Yes. The first one is a lot of quilts, especially the ones that we sell for beginners, because they're easy to put together and they're really cute. Yeah. So this one, which is our little squared ombre one, as you can see, you use the squares in itself, and you use that to create the design. So on this one, we just, as you can see, just did these, what are they called? Vertical?
Yeah, these lines. Yeah,
just vertical lines, just intersecting each one, and then went back the other way. So that's one easy design that can easily be done on your home sewing machine.
Yeah, it took me about an hour to do that one. It's not too bad. This one is a cool one of our gingham quilts, which I love this navy and gray. But for this one, we use the natural edges, like the seams of the quilt, and then we just went on either side of the seam and we quilted along that. And so we did those both on the horizontal and vertical lines. So that's another really simple, and you don't even have to mark this one. This one you can just use the seam as your guide.
Well, and you actually just use your sewing machine foot. Yeah. And that's how it keeps the line straight for you, which we'll demonstrate that. Yeah, demonstrate it later.
Yeah, watch our tutorial on how to make the gingham quilt to see start to finish how we make it, and we'll teach you how to do those lines. So this one is our meet in the middle quilt, which is one of my personal favorites. And this one, it's really the quilting that gives this pattern a lot of personality. And don't be intimidated, you guys, it's really, really easy. So what I do for this one, I take a ruler. This is just a yardstick. I mean, any straight edge or even just your normal like cutting board.
Even the hardware store $2 yardsticks.
Yeah, you just need a straight line. But what I did was I went along like each of these edges and I just went up 2 inches, and then same thing on this seam right here. I just did every 2 inches, and then I just took my ruler and I went and I marked it all. I marked
the dots.
Yep. Literally connecting the dots. And there's these special pens that I'll show you in just a minute that you use. But what's great about them is once you iron it or any heat activation, it disappears. And so that will be your best friend whenever it comes to this type of quilting. So I love this quilt.
So this is just using the actual design of the quilt and just
going off, playing with it.
Just mirroring the lines that are already there.
Yeah. And then this is actually another, so this is another ombre quilt of ours, and for this you can see we literally just did straight lines across, and to keep it easier and I think it makes it look more interesting is we didn't space them all evenly. Some we did a 1/4 inch, some we did 1 inch. I think there's even some like 1.5 inches in here, and then it wasn't consistent. We just did what, I don't know.
And that actually helps, because if we really studied these lines, they may not necessarily be perfect, but because you stagger them, it kind of tricks the eye a little bit and it appears to be somewhat straight. Yeah. And that's what you're looking for.
Yep.
But this one too, when you're doing something like this, The easiest way for me is to just start where one of the seam lines is, and get your ruler and start from there, and then just keep moving up. And as you hit each seam line, if it starts getting a little bit too wonky, just straighten it back up at the seam line and then just continue marking up.
Well, and especially after it gets washed, it's not going to be as noticeable anyway. So quilting is pretty forgiving, I think.
And you'll see the next one we've washed, so you'll kind of see what we mean by that.
So those other quilts that we showed you were not washed. This is what a quilt that is washed looks like. So it kind of puckers a little bit more, and that's because the cotton batting that we used, or whatever batting you use, it tends to shrink a little bit. And so whenever it shrinks, whenever you wash it, you get this.
Gotta get the piece of thread off.
My mom's such a perfectionist. I love that about her. So that's what creates the puckering, is because the batting just shrinks slightly.
Well, and the cotton fabric shrinks a little bit too.
A little bit too.
Altogether.
Yeah, but that's just the look you get. And so for this one, we actually did, like the other ombre one that we just showed you, we did the straight lines as well, and we just did them randomly. We didn't measure them out. But instead of just doing a straight line, we used one of the decorative stitches on the sewing machine that even the basic sewing machines will have at least a few different decorative stitches. But we just used a wave stitch, and we just followed the line, and so we got this really cool effect. And so it's a little fancy, and it takes no extra time at all. I think it's really cool, and it's just really unique. So that's just another one.